Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one will go over some of my favorite plays for tonight's 6-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings. And before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single night for the NBA season, it's got the most up-to-date info that all my updated personal plays that I like heading into the night, because obviously things change from by the time I make these videos. News comes out, lineups change, all that random stuff. So if you want all my up-to-date stuff, links below in the description below for my spreadsheets, projections, stats, my Slack chat, and my cheat sheet. And I think that's about it. So I say we get right into the video. So we're going to start off with my two favorite guys. And my favorite guy is Anthony Davis tonight at 10,000. And he's the top play of the slate for me, and I'll be locking him in. This is a fantastic matchup versus Chicago, who is one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and they have no one to match up with Davis physically. They're giving up the second most points per game to power forwards, and are just overall very, very bad versus big men, power forwards and centers. Doesn't really matter. And we just saw Drummond drop 25 in points and 24 rebounds in these guys recently, and we saw Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson eat as well versus them. Davis will be their toughest test yet, and on the year he owns a 33% usage rate, over 35 minutes per game, and 1.53 points per minute, all fantastic numbers. And I see no reason he can't dominate tonight, so he's my number one guy, and we all know the ceiling of Anthony Davis. We saw him drop nearly 80 points in only 3 quarters versus Memphis. Played 31 minutes, but it was only 3 quarters because they were blowing him out at the end of the game. He had 20 rebounds, 40 real-life points, 73 fantasy points. It was a monster day. I think we can see something close to that again. So Anthony Davis, I feel just fine loading him up tonight. And then I also like his teammate LeBron James at 9,600. So I'm just staying with the Lakers theme here. LBJ is only 9,600, and he's really turned it up the past 2 games with a monster 92-point game with a triple-double. Then he had another triple-double versus the Spurs where he had 62 fantasy points. Now, he's been hit or miss this year. He's had 2 games in the 40s and a 30-point game mixed in there as well, which obviously isn't very good when you're paying that much for LeBron. But I generally believe he will be more hit than miss on most nights. He's a triple-double threat every single night, especially with his role of being the main distributor on this team. And he's really excelled in it so far. He's really racking up the assists. He already has 2 triple-doubles on the season. He's nearly averaging 1 right now. He has 25 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. And on the year, he has a 32.8% usage rate, which is slightly behind Anthony Davis, but that's just because LeBron's been distributing the ball more. And he's around 35 minutes per game, and he has 1.58 fantasy points per minute. It's not as good of a matchup for him as Anthony Davis's matchup, but the same could be said for the Bulls, and they don't really have anyone that can slow him down. So LeBron, I think we see another monster game out of him. Not saying he's going to get 60, 90 points, but I think it's a safe bet for him to get over 50 fantasy points tonight. And these are my 2 favorite studs of the night. There's a lot of good plays on this slate, so I'm not going to talk about everybody, but Jokic, I'm going to pass on. Trae Young, he's expected to play. John Collins is out, so I could see him really having to carry the load there. So Trae Young would make some sense. Kevin Love, good matchup down low versus Boston. Cantor's doubtful, so really don't have anyone that can match up too well with him. Should have another good game. He's been fine this year. Kemba Walker versus Cleveland. They haven't been great versus point guards this season, so he'd make sense. Vucevic, not really too interested in anyone from Orlando. That's highly priced. Sabonis, I actually have some interest in Sabonis here at 8,300. He's listed as questionable for now, but let's just pretend he is going to play, and if so, this is a fantastic matchup for him. Should be able to smash here. Miles Turner is listed as doubtful, so I'm not really expecting him to play, and so Sabonis should have to shoulder even more of the load as long as he's good to go. Charlotte is one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to power forwards this season, and just big guys all around. Worst team in the league versus centers and bottom 10 to power forwards. Sabonis is averaging around 36 minutes per game with just a little bit over 1 point per minute, 1.14 points per minute, and he has a 23% usage rate. If we just give him a very simple projection here, it would 1.14 points per minute with his average minutes, it's about 40 fantasy points. And if we factor in things like matchup and all that stuff, we're honestly looking at a game where I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 50 fantasy points as long as he gets his full complement of minutes. So Sabonis, I like him a lot. I mean, versus Cleveland, nearly 50 points. Versus Brooklyn, nearly 50 points. 8,300, I like it. The price came down just a little bit from the last game. So Sabonis, I think he makes some sense tonight. Anyone else? Brogdon, I think he's fine. He's been great this season. Price came down after, what was he? I know he's very expensive versus Chicago. I forget exactly what. But, 8,800, 7,300. Yeah, his price came up a lot from the beginning of the season, but came down a little bit this game, which it's a pretty good matchup versus Charlotte. So not as good as down low, but Brogdon's been great this year. He's racking it up in every single category here, getting all these assists, I mean, not fantastic in the rebound department, but he's been getting 8, 8, 8. And then he had games of 2, 3, and 3, so that's kind of in the middle. But he's been doing it all. He's a triple-double threat here. He's been scoring a lot of points, 22, 25, 21, 15, 30. He's had multiple games over 50 fantasy points, so I think Brogdon's a fine option. I just prefer Sabonis down low versus Charlotte because that's where you want to attack them the most. But Brogdon, I think he's fine as well. Jimmy Butler's been pretty good, but don't really love attacking Denver. John Collins got suspended. I think where's Aldridge at? I do want to talk about Aldridge. So he's 6,800, and I do have some interest in him. He's not my favorite player in the world, but he hasn't been great the past week, to put it nicely. I mean, 20 points, 33 points, 18 points. That's not good at all. But he should be able to have a good game here in this matchup versus Alex Len, because John Collins is out, and Alex Len and whoever else they want to throw at him in this Atlanta front court. Len has not been good versus big men either this season. They're bottom 10 in that category, so given the price drop in the matchup, I do think he's worth some flyers here, so I don't mind LaMarcus Aldridge. I could see him having some ownership. Tristan Thompson would be fine versus a weak Boston front court. Let's see. Cody Zeller. Indiana has struggled versus the center position, but I feel like I'm overpaying a little bit for Cody Zeller there. So John Collins is out, so that would... Okay, Jabari Parker at 5,000. So he becomes the best value play, he became the best value play on the slate around 10:30 this morning, with John Collins getting the old 25-game suspension. The biggest benefactor here will be Jabari Parker, who's been playing 22 minutes per game. But he will now be thrust into an expanded role here. He should see over 30 minutes in this game, with Collins leaving behind about 32 minutes per game. So a lot of minutes to go around, and Parker is the biggest benefactor here. On the air, Parker's been right around a point per minute and a 24% usage rate coming off the bench. Now that could come down a little bit, but he should still get over 30 minutes in this game, and he's been pretty much a point per minute guy, like I said. So I could easily see him getting over 30 fantasy points, and I think I got him projected for a little bit over 30 right now. So at 5K, he's probably going to be one of the more popular plays on the slate, if not the most popular, just because John Collins is out. Jabari Parker, the guy's got talent. I mean, 25 minutes, you got 36 points, 20, 11. Yeah, that's not very good, but 17, 19. But he's going to get extra minutes here, so 5K, he makes a ton of sense for me. And really, there's not a lot of great value plays on the slate. I know yesterday there was just an absolute ton, and we could just play whoever the heck we wanted. But it's not that easy tonight. So it's kind of the first slate that we've not really had that luxury. But Markelle Fultz at 4K even, I think he's fine. So he was moved into the starting lineup on Saturday, and he's expected to keep that starting role for the foreseeable future right now, is what DraftKings said. But he's not been that great, but he did start the season with 3 straight 20-point outings, where his minutes were in the mid-20s versus Cleveland, Atlanta, and Toronto. I think he pushes for over 25 minutes tonight, probably right around there, and he probably won't be a big point-per-minute guy, but I think 22 to 24 points is a reasonable expectation for him at 4K. So I don't hate it, but again, there's not a lot to pick from this value range here. Maybe some more stuff opens up, and then it'd make building lineups a lot easier. As of right now, I think Fultz is fine. What's his name? Goga. I'm not actually sure how to say this game. I've never heard it pronounced, so I'm just gonna call him Goga. I'm not totally sure. Goga maybe, but so he's gonna benefit from Miles Turner being out, and he was the top value guy, and he would be the top. I should say he would be the top value guy on the slate if Sabonis happened to miss this game, or at least close to it. I already mentioned how bad Charlotte is versus big men, so I'm not gonna repeat myself here, but he hasn't been half bad with his minutes the past 2 games. On Saturday, he saw 24 minutes and gave us 28 fantasy points. Then on Sunday, he got 18 minutes and gave us 26. So if you do the math, that's 1.2 points per minute, which is pretty good for a guy that's only 4K. So if we're projecting Sabonis to play, I still have him for close to 20 minutes in this game, which I think is good enough for his price tag. He should be able to get you 20 fantasy points. And if Sabonis happens to miss, I think we could see close to 25 minutes, and he would become a smash play versus Charlotte, who sucks versus big men. So wouldn't mind Goga there at 4K. If I'm saying his name wrong, I'm sorry. I've never heard his name pronounced before. But really, that's about it. There's not a lot of guys. Maybe Terrence Ross. I mean, there's not a lot of value guys here. I'll have more throughout the day, but as of right now, I'm not seeing a ton. Maybe some more news comes out, and we have some other guys that open up some value. But yeah, right now I'm not seeing too much. So I'm gonna leave you guys with Daniel Theis at 4,800. Cleveland's doesn't have the best front court in terms of defense, and he should be able to get you 25 some minutes. They're still missing pieces. He saw 28 and 27 minutes the past 2 games, 25 and 22 fantasy points. I think he's fine. I just wish he was in 4,800, which seems a little bit too expensive for him, but I think he's a fine play as well. Decent cash game. I don't think he's going to kill your lineups or anything. So, anyway, guys, that's all I'm going to talk about. Sorry there's not a lot of plays here, but it's not my most favorite slate in the world. So, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter, ChrisPinell16. And I'll see you guys in the next video.